Hi, welcome back to the Blessed Moms podcast. My name is Miss Patton, and today I have Karen Cupp on the podcast. Um, Today we're just going to be talking about kind of Karen's faith and her faith walk, and then just go wherever God takes us. I think that's kind of a cool thing. Is God totally changes the subject sometimes. And
He does. Isn't that amazing?
it's cool. Sometimes I'm talking about something, and then the other person mentions something. We go on a whole different rant, and I think that's a blessing in its own.
That's true. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Okay, so I had just we just tell me a little bit about yourself, tell them a little bit about you.
Yes. My name's Karen Cupp, and I have a company that started years ago called Cup of Wisdom, my last name. But what I realized is that people have all this information in the world, and they're searching for wisdom, the old fashioned wisdom. And as a believer, I realized that that's the walk that I want to take. I'm also a real estate broker, and I teach investing. But I also wanted to bring that with me. Everything I do is just a vehicle to bring God with me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about that before this, about how she takes God with her to things. Because I was one of my questions I had for her was how do you pull God into work? Because I feel like that can be hard for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one of my friend's dads. He's a doctor, and when he goes in to do surgeries, sometimes he'll pray with the people before they go in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's cool because that's a way you can share your faith. And I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody, you have your own little way, so don't feel like just because you do a certain job that you cannot share your faith, because there's always a way that you can share God in your work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that people should do more, is share God in their work, because there's a reason God put you there, and you don't need to be ashamed of your faith. I think it talks about that in Romans.
Right.
Do not be ashamed. And I think that's just important to remember, is that there's nothing to be ashamed of, because the enemy will try to make you think, well, people are going to laugh at you, people are going to be mean to you. And I was talking to my youth pastor. He was when I was starting this, he was are you ready for people to judge you? And I was they're going to judge me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather them judge me for something good than be well, she's mean and she's the bully. I'd rather than be yeah, she follows Jesus and she shares Jesus. I would rather them make fun of me for that than be she's mean and she's not kind and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was talking to him about that, I was I'd rather them judge me for this and
Mm-hmm.
be that, because that's how, that's the person I want to be, is Jesus, a Jesus person. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have something on my wall over there, and it says I want to be the kind of person where they look at me and they're I can see Jesus in her. And that's my goal is okay, I want people to see Jesus in me, and I want to bring them closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's really important. I had written down here. Okay, yeah. So do you want to talk about how you pull God into your work?
Absolutely. And so much in the world, people are they're big to quote, a scripture, quote a quote, and then all these places that to say we can't do that, you can't bring that in. And in my work as a real estate broker, I really got into it with the idea that I wanted to walk out my faith. It wasn't a Sunday go to church kind of faith, although it could be. It wasn't a shout it from the rooftops with just quotes, but it was actually taking him with me. And so I actually had an opportunity the other day to talk about this with someone, and I said, I go in more homes and I go into more private spaces, people's private homes, where when we go out in the world, we put on our face, right? Our A game face. When we're at home, we're struggling with all the things that other people are struggling with, marriages, relationships with their parents, life. But nobody sees that. We put an A game going out, and we play the B game behind the scenes. And so as I was going into homes, I was letting God speak through me. Some of the times the things that I say, or asking to pray with people, or what have you, or just bringing the essence of Christ into their home and leaving him there, or leaving in a part of him there when I leave. And it's been so interesting to do that, because That's the essence of God. That's the essence of God. And so to be in people's private spaces, and people will say sometimes, like, you prayed with them. It's like, I'd rather, they need that. They want that. They just don't know how to ask for it.
Right. And I feel like when you like walk into a room as a believer, they're going to see a difference. Like when you are fully in Christ and you will believe in Christ, you will see a difference between those people. Because I did a podcast the other day about marriage, and they were talking about, he mentioned like that people who read their Bible, they're like, there's like a test that went around and they're like more happy. And that's so true, because when I like start my day with, okay, I pick up my phone, and if you're on your phone, you're on social media and hit that, you're going to be not as happy, because I feel like comparison is a big thing on social media and all that. If you pick up the Bible, you're not comparing yourself to like, oh, this guy was in prison, I want to be there. No, you're like, okay, he was in prison, he still shared the word of God. How am I going to be able to do that in my everyday life? And so I feel like when I read the Bible, it definitely changes my perspective on, okay, how am I going to act today? Or one of the big Bible verses that I think of like every day is like, do everything with love. Like whatever you do, do with love. I'm okay, I'm going to probably get mad at something today, but I'm going to handle it with love and like that kind of stuff. And sometimes like I write it like on my wrist, like that Bible verse. And so every time I like look at my wrist, I'm like, I need to be loving and I need to be kind. Take a deep breath. Don't get mad. And I feel like that's a big thing for me, is I'm like, okay, just take a deep breath. So I feel like with that, yeah. And then you're talking about how you get to go into their homes. You get to share like God's word. That is so cool. And I feel like we can all do that in a different way. Like everybody take it where you can do it. So like at swim, sometimes, and it's not even me just being like, hey, do you know Jesus? All this stuff. I just walk in there and I'm like, talk to a person like, how was your day? And they're like, oh, it was really rough. And I was like, okay, I'll be praying for you. Or I pray with them and I'm like, say something like, God has a plan, I think that's something that really helped me, is knowing that God has a plan. Because when everything goes down, you're like, I'm out of here, there's no plan, there's no hope. And it's like, just wait, it'll be okay, just pray. And I think Ephesians 14 or something, there's Exodus 14. It talks about how like just be still and God will fight for you. Like just be calm, be silent. And I'm like, okay, so I don't need to freak out, like, oh, this is all happening so bad. I can just take a deep breath and it's all gonna work out. It might not work out the way you want it to, but it's gonna work out the way you need it to. Because we were talking about earlier how God grows you through things, because it's so true. God will grow you through things. And there's things that I've gone through that I wouldn't have chosen to go through. But I went through them because there's a bigger picture. And I think that's really cool, because I've gone through a lot of different like stages in my life. Like I was a free will kid. I was crazy. And then I was like, okay, I did a bunch of kitten stuff. Where I like rescue kittens, and I did that for like a year and a half. And then I was like, I'm still like pretty big into swimming, and it was just like swimming. And then it's kind of cool to see like all the different things you go through, because during the kitten stuff, I learned patience and like, okay, a love for something other than myself, and like taking care of something and that kind of stuff. And I learned like that it's not all about you. You're allowed to take care of other things. And then with swimming, you learn a lot of discipline and a lot of like determination in something. And that's not like, you have to pursue it and you have to like work hard at it to make it grow. And I think that's also how it is with your relationship with Christ, is you have to pursue it and you have to like engage in it, because a relationship is two different people. So you have to, like what I mean, you have to be in the Word and you have to talk to God, because He's always waiting for you to talk to Him, and He's talking to you through like all these situations in your life. And I feel like I've definitely found that you have to talk to Him and you have to give your heart to Him, because His love will never fail. I say that a lot. It's like His love will never fail. As a human, my love will fail. Like I'm not always going to be perfect, and I'm not always going to be loving. There's going to be some moments where I'm not a loving person, but God will always be a loving person, and He will always be perfect. So I feel like when people are like, well, I just don't believe in God, I'm like, how could you not believe in God? Like God is so, like He's perfect. And they're like, well, I just don't know how to trust Him. And I'm like, you trust me. And like people will trust me, and like you're going to talk to me about this stuff and you're trusting me. But you can trust God. And God is so much more like, my words are not working today, but God is so much better than what you can tell me. So like, God already knows. So even if you mess up and you're like, I don't know what's going on, God, and all this stuff. So say my friend, she's like talking to me and she's like, no, so I'm struggling with this and this and this. Well, you trusted me with that information. I could tell everybody else. I'm not going to, but as a human, I could tell everybody else. But God will never tell anybody else. And God will always, like, not keep your secrets, but he will always, like, keep your problems and be okay. So always tell him. Like, I always, when I have a problem, I go to him first. And I'm like, okay, God, this is what I'm going through. He's like, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm putting you through these trials and these, like, problems because it's going to grow you. And it's going to make you better. And it's going to, like, help you with that. So sorry, I just went on a whole big rant. But, yeah.
Well, you told me earlier you did that podcast on marriage, and years ago, my husband and our family came to a place where it was just more than, we were too big for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Sometimes couples just get to that point. And this being very vulnerable, I prayed, God, bring us to our knees. Got to be careful what you pray for.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And our family split apart. And during that time, we never, as two individuals, never kind of totally lost sight of each other. But during that time, God was growing each of us. And we just a year ago, June 17th, remarried. And when we were going to have the wedding at our house, I knew there was a reason to have it right at our house, in our front yard, in our neighborhood. And when I called people to get an RSVP, because I forgot to put it on the invitation, I called everyone. There were 80 people that I called. And not only did they say yes, they said, oh, absolutely yes, we'll be there.
Yeah.
And they said, we needed you to show us, we needed you, the security. And it wasn't about us. It was God working through us to realize you don't give up on each other.
Right.
And to work. And all the people that came to that wedding was like a celebration to God that we didn't, that we kept persevered, that all the things you do as a couple to influence the world, and God told me, I have great things for you and Barry to do. I have great things. Well, all of that, people could say, well, yeah, but you fell apart. Yeah, you did this. Yeah, you did that. It's not that. It's the journey back. And there's a great phrase, quote in the Bible, and it says, count it all as joy. And if you've ever had stuff that you've gone through that is hard and you don't understand, and that was painful and all that stuff, and you stop and you say, count it all as joy. Yeah, but that was rough. Count it all as joy. What a great thing that keeps us going, because all of that got us to here.
Yeah.
Now, we're not perfect. We're still rough around the edges. But what I know is God had a mission. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter the perfection, because it's not about perfection. He said, I give you to a mission. Mm-hmm. And our family is closer in our faith. It's influencing the things we do. One of the things that's kind of neat is that we now have a family member that stays with us on the weekend, and our son, Timmy. And we don't ever, they're not believers. Mm-hmm. And we just put our hands out at the table and take each other's hands and pray. Right. And now they sit at the table and put their hands out.
Yeah, I feel like God definitely moves in crazy ways. And you'll see, like, things happen where you're like, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing. This doesn't make sense. And then you can grow from that. We did one on, like, growing through your sufferings, and the girl that I did it with, she and I had both just gone through an injury. And we were talking about, you go through hard things, and then you come out with a story. And so now I can talk to people about, like, it doesn't make sense, and you get to grow from it. And then you get to share it with other people. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh my gosh, God was there for me. And God was always there for me. He never left me. All those nights that I started crying, God was there. He was the one who was holding me when I was just crying and I couldn't take it anymore. He was the one who was there. Mm-hmm. So now I get to share with people. Mm-hmm. And so, like, your faith definitely, that you can not change other people, but you can help influence other people. Because when I think about, like, who I want to spend my time with, and especially, like, the whole marriage thing, because, I feel like as I'm a freshman now, like, as I see my friends, they're, like, dating and getting, like, relationships and stuff like that. And I think it really depends on who you spend your time with, because The people
Mhm.
you spend your time with are the people that you can influence. And
Mhm.
so I have to be careful to make sure I don't spend all my time with like worldly people, because then they will influence me. But the fact that I get to sometimes sit down with like a worldly person and just get to talk to them,
Mhm.
and I can see like sometimes I'll ask questions like, why do you believe in God?
Mhm.
I was like, because I went through stuff that I wouldn't have made it through without him. And I
Mhm.
went through nights that I wouldn't have made it through. But I called on him and he saved me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to tell people, because it was like such a great thing,
Mhm.
that I need to tell people, because I'm like, this is crazy. God is amazing. He's so good. There are
Mhm.
so many times that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have like made it out, but he had me and he was taking care of me. And so I feel like that's so cool that you guys are able to do that. And like, I feel like when I'm looking for my partner, is I'm looking for someone who will share God's word with me, and that will be like, okay, let's go out and share God's word. Okay, let's talk to these people about God. Let's do this and this and this. And so I feel like that's definitely, I like seeing other like believer couples,
Mhm.
because it's like, wow, they can change. I don't say like, so when I talk about like, I'm like, I don't want to change the world. I want to change somebody's world.
Mhm.
Because if I save one, like, I don't save one person, but if I help bring one person to God, then that's amazing.
That's right. They'll go
And
out and they'll
do
continue.
someone else
Yeah.
and someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so cool. But yeah, I feel like when I'm looking for my partner, I'm like, okay, how am I going to? I need to find someone who's going to help share the gospel with me,
Mhm.
because I think we know a part of our calling. That's something I want to do a podcast on. Is like your calling. You won't always know your calling, but I feel like God kind of shows you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is like a little bit of your calling, and this is a little bit. And so like when I see, okay, I want to be a speaker. Okay, I want to do this. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, how do I get there? And yeah, what you said, be careful with your prayers, because
Mhm.
yes, God will answer them. And I feel like it's sometimes really scary, because I was like, I prayed, I was like, God, send me, show me like how to do your will and all this. And I got injured and I couldn't swim. And I was like, what are you doing? This isn't what I asked for. I asked you to
Mhm.
show me a way. And then I was like, I had these thoughts, and I was like, I need to start a podcast. I need to start speaking. I need to start writing a book. Like, I started thinking about these things, and I was like, okay, well, maybe my prayer wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but it's really cool that now I have this, because I was like, God, you're not doing what I asked you to do. This isn't what I said. I said, send me, show me your like path for my life. This is not what I expected. And he's like, I like something I really came out with is like, God won't always give you what you want, but he'll give you what you need.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's really hard. And it's like following his word. And I was like, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to follow you, and like, I'm going to believe in you, because I know that I'm here for you. And this isn't a Rose show. This is a God show. And so I'm going to follow you, and
Mhm.
I'm going to tell them all about you, because they don't need to know about me. Like
Mhm.
in 50 or not 50 years, like 500 years, are they going to remember my name? No. But they're going to remember Jesus. And so
Mhm.
I want to make sure they remember Jesus, not Rose Patton.
Mhm.
Because so like that's a big thing that I think about a lot, is like, whose name am I sharing? Whose name am I
Mhm.
telling people about? Am I telling them about me, or am I telling them about God? So I
Mhm.
think that's
Yeah, and so often we again want to go to that A game, and we don't really think that our faith comes in our stumbles and how we believe. And years ago, I had something happen in my life, and I heard an inkling of saying, I might ask you to share that sometime. And I went, oh, no, 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 don't ever want to talk about that. No. And then I stopped, and he said, looked at me, and I said, okay, if you bring me to a place you want me to share that, I will. And that was scary, Rose, because that means I may have to do things and share things that were embarrassing or struggling in my past. And that's the way you share that God had a plan. God had a plan, and that other people look and say, oh, you mean this faith, this believing in God, this believing in Christ, this, is not all about being perfect and earning the right. It is, he took your hand and he said, we're going to go on a journey. And so many people, I think, when they think about accepting Christ, they tend to want to say, okay, well, you accept Christ, and I see all the people, and, they all are trying to be perfect, but they're not. And it's like, you got the wrong message. You accepted him, and that's when it started down the journey. You didn't just suddenly go, I'm perfect. No, You accepted and you said, whatever you want to take me on, however I've got some ideas, but show me, a totally different thing. Well, that's faith. That's God in action. I just said yes to the journey. I don't know what that journey will look like. So I remember that so profoundly, and he's not totally brought me to that story yet, but I already gave him permission.
Yeah.
So that's scary, but that means you understand that he'll use it for someone's good.
Yeah. Because I feel like, our hard moments and our embarrassing moments and our stories that we don't want to share are the stories that we have to share, because it's I feel like watching you and Barry grow was kind of a cool thing to watch, because coming to the wedding was so cool. I loved how it was at your house. But and I was like, this is so cool. The fact that you guys were able to grow back together, and that God knew that you were meant for each other. And so even though there was a little bit of separation, you guys still came back together. And that was a wow. So I feel like you can never say it's over. God will always show you that there's another, there's more coming. And I feel like that's happened to me a lot lately, is I'm like, okay, what are you planning for my life? And he's like, sometimes he won't give it to you all at once. He'll
we're not ready for it,
No, if he showed me everything, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm going the other way. But then I'm like, okay, God, this is really cool. And when I'm doing, talking about my comfort zone, because I'm speaking in I think the 17th, today's the 15th, so it's a month away. And that scares me. I'm like, oh, I have to speak in a month. But no, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. And I'm like, that is a really cool subject for me, because I've had to get out of my comfort zone. I'm not the best at speaking, so I'm over here am I even saying anything? And so I'm like, okay, I need to grow with that. And just because you aren't perfect at something doesn't mean that you can't become better. I feel like perfect is a hard word, because
perfect is overrated. We become better every day, better. That's all. Praise the progress, not
I'm loving the journey. I haven't seen the outcome, what it's going to become, but I just see the journey.
Yeah.
Because I'm still 14. I might have 70 years ahead of me. I might have 2 years ahead of me. I don't know what God is leading me to. And so I feel like stepping out of my comfort zone and just, this could be my last day. How am I going to spend it? I think about that every day. I wake up, I'm like, this could be my last day. How am I going to spend it? How many people am I going to tell about God? And sometimes I make it a little challenge. Okay, I need to text somebody. And I just pray about it. And okay, this is the person I'm going to text. Hey, just to let you know, I'm praying for you. And I pray about them, all that stuff, because I'm like, God, I don't know what's going on in anybody else's life. Yeah, you talked about, we can just hide things. I'm sometimes good at just walking out of the house, and I'm like, I'm good, I'm perfect, I'm all good, and nothing bad. I'm going inside. And I go inside, and it's that was exhausting being perfect and happy all the time.
Because you want people to know that it's, we're not perfect. We're doing the best we can. Because I think sometimes people, they go, well, I wouldn't qualify. Well, yeah, you would. Yeah, you would. In real estate, I see everyone's life. When I'm going through transactions with someone, it is the biggest, hardest challenge that they're having is it's not just, hey, I want to sell my house and here's a bedroom and a bathroom. It is, we want to move somewhere closer to our family. We know we didn't do the work on this house that we should have, but we want the most money out of it and what have you. And sometimes it becomes quite a weight to know all these private things about all these people, and yet, stay true. And, I just had somebody recently, and that were believers, and I kept saying, trust the process, trust it, because I realized that they're going through it. It's going to work out. Trust it. And what I learned in the faith is we're responsible for the encouragement, doing the things to help them. But we're not the whole thing. We're only one piece. And I can't make something happen in a real estate deal. I mean, I can't make it all come to pass. If they don't want to change the psychedelic carpet in there and they're not getting good offers, I can't make them do that. I know that it'll make a difference, but I can't make them. So I have to lead them, if you will, to their decision. And if you could look, just like we don't know the outcome, if you look back and you go, if I had changed that psychedelic carpet sooner,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have gotten what I wanted, which is the house sold and me onto my mom and dad, right? But I had to learn to not to kind of take it all with a grain of salt and trust the process myself, because I'm not in charge of changing somebody's life. I plant a seed,
Mm-hmm.
I let all the players that God brings to the table water that seed.
Yeah. Something you said there is you're talking about how you tell them, like, okay, this would fix it, this would be better, but they don't always listen. And that's something with God. I feel like sometimes God tells me this, he's like, Rose, like, do this, or you gotta do this, and just trust me, it's gonna be okay. And so I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm good. I got this on my own. And I feel like that's a hard part, because I'm always like, I got this. I'm independent. I can do this. And I'm like, okay, God, I need your help, because it's not going the way I thought it was gonna go. And I feel like he'll definitely be like leading you, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, I feel like he's definitely leading me on other things, and he's like, okay, Rose, follow me. And I'm like, but that's going to be so much harder. And he's like, yeah, but I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And like, that's a big part with me, is I'm like, okay, God, I know all the times that I can fall on this journey. I'm going to fall, and I know I'm going to fall. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up. And that's part of learning and part of growing. And I'm like, but I know that you're going to be with me through everything. So why am I afraid to go forward when I know that you're going to protect me and you're going to take care of me? And yeah, it's going to be hard. And yeah, I'm probably going to cry sometimes. But you're going to protect me and you're going to take care of me. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to think about. It's something that the person who created, he created everything. He created literally everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I so worried? There's something I wrote down one time, and I was like, he created me. And he's known my plan since the day I took my first breath. He created me. Why am I so afraid of letting him have my life? And I'm like, you made this life. Like, you created me. Why am I so afraid of being like, God, I got this on my own? No, I don't. I didn't create myself. He created me. So I need to put my faith in him, because he knows what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just rolling with the punches. And like, he knows what he's doing. And so I feel like if I got to talk to somebody about like following God, I'm like, because he knows what he has in store for you, and like he knows the plans he has for you, like the plans to prosper you and give you hope in the future. I think that's a verse that's gotten me through a lot. It's like knowing that he has a hope in the future for me, and he isn't planning on harming me. He's planning on taking care of me. And I think that's really cool. Yeah, I think you get to do a lot of quite cool things in your real estate, because you get to talk to people and you get to like get into their personal lives, because moving is hard. I've moved like 8 times, I think. And so like moving, it's a scary situation, because you're leaving something, but you're moving into something.
Yes.
And that's hard. I feel like I had a really hard time moving to the house we're in now, because I had to leave behind, we were neighbors, I had to leave behind like a part of me. Like, cause I was like, this is where I grew up, this is where like I lived. And I was like, but that's okay. Because sometimes you have to let go of things to grow into things. So I've been here, and I've been able to share my faith with other people. I've been able to grow, because sometimes you're going to go through things that you don't want to like go through, and it's going to grow you. And I did not want to move. No part of me wanted to move. I had to leave my best friend. I had to leave the place I felt safe. And I was like, sometimes you have to feel a little unsafe and a little unsure to like grow. Because I did not feel like, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't know anybody. And yes, it's like 5 minutes away, but it was a different environment. And I'm like, I like sharing the gospel, because I'm like, I don't know if my dad's gonna be, okay, it's time to move. So who knows if I get to like share with these people again. So I'm like, I'm gonna share what I got right now, because who knows when it's like not gonna get a chance to share. But yeah, I think moving, so you get to like see the ups and downs, because moving is an emotional roller coaster, because
it is just all the things that go into selling a home or buying a home, that all have to come together. Everything from, they have to be vulnerable and share their finances with a bank. Oh, that's scary. That bank could say no. Or, the things I might not have repaired on my house that now the new buyer wants me to fix. Well, I didn't want to have to do that.
Right.
Or what if the deal, setting realistic expectations and knowing that it's hard and it's scary, not to mention the packing the boxes and moving, but just the whole process of the getting to what they call the closing table is so many elements. And and just kind of holding somebody, holding their hand, talking. I remember one client, it was a really big deal, probably the biggest deal I ever did. And he called me later and he said to me, you never lose your cool. And he said, you talked me off the ledge when I was just felt like this was just going to blow up.
Yeah.
And not that I'm perfect. I feel like God gave me that sense of just level calmness, even though it's like, in our brain. And that's the problem with it. We don't stay with God in our spirit enough. And we stay in our brain trying to figure everything out. It's like, don't stop trying to figure everything out. It's going to work out. But I remember him calling one night and just, I was on the call 45 minutes with this guy. But later he said, thank you for being calm and level and talking me off the ledge. We got it done. And we're great friends today. But that's kind of part of the inner circle of real estate that makes it hard and makes it rewarding.
Yeah, because you guys all have different views on things. And my best friend, one of my best friends, she just moved to Alabama. And it was like watching her, like, I'm like, you're going to have to, like, everything's changing. She's going into high school. So I'm like, you're going to a different school. Nobody everything changed. And I was like, you get to now share your faith to those people. Because there's people everywhere that don't know who you are. And I'm like, and the fact is that they don't need to know who you are. They need to know who God is. And I was like, so now you have like a whole new opportunity to share God's word and do all that stuff. Because I was like, yeah, it was hard for me. I was like, my best friend, she's moving 5 hours away, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to see her unless we meet up. And so I'm like, okay, how this is gonna be hard. And I feel like for a while I was like, this is not what I like. God, why you're taking it from me? God, why is this happening? God, why is this? And I'm like, God has a plan for her. It's not about me. I was like, I was so blessed to have as much time with her as I had, but now she's gonna go change those people's lives. And I was like, because I've seen her work and I've seen her change people's lives here. And I'm like, so I can't wait to see how many lives she changes there. Yep. And so I was like, I changed my prayers from, God, why did you take her from me? Like, why is she going away? To thank you, God, for giving me the time that I've had. And thank you for giving her the opportunity to now share your word. Just please give her faith in that and doing all that. So I think that's really cool. I don't know. I just want to share that.
Well, and what's funny is you won't be with her every day, but you have the choice to maintain the friendship. Right. And it's as if we all got sent out on mission, which is we are all disciples of Christ. So we get sent out on mission, then we get to come back and share and say, you know what, I didn't have a clue how that was going to turn out, but it really turned out better than I thought. So your experience with her, your friendship will be richer, right? Because you took such a hold off and let God walk it out.
Right. I'm like, I can't wait to see what you get to do. And in fact, I still text her okay, how was school today? Oh, it was awful. Me too. But talk to her about okay, how's this going? Because when you have, I have a lot of friendships. I feel like some are closer than others, but I don't know. For me, I've never had a best friend. I've had really close friends, and I feel like I like that part because, I have one of my friends. We went on a trip with them, and we got to share a room, and she and I, we stayed up really late every night because we were just talking. Okay, how did you think today went? What did you do today? We both did the exact same things usually, but we were okay, how did you feel about these things? Because I'm a communicator. I love communicating with people because I feel like I have to talk to somebody about how a situation went. Okay, what did you think about this situation, this thing? And then we talked till 2 a.m. some nights. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna. We both would take time and we would do a devotion. And I have a devotion book that I'm doing, and she has a devotion book that she's doing. They're totally different devotion books. But we would just sit on the bed, and she would do hers, and I would do mine. And sometimes she'd be like, oh, look at this. Oh, I found this. And she'd be like, oh, look at this verse. And she'd read it to me, and I'd be like, oh, my gosh, I found this verse. And we would add it into our notes and all this stuff. And I'm like, that is so cool. That friendships that God puts in your life, make a total difference on your life. And we could have sat there and watched a movie instead. Or we could have sat there and played, not that video games are bad, but we could have sat there and done that. But we were let's do a Bible study, 2 different Bible studies, but let's pull it into one. And I feel like that was just a blessing. We did that every night, and I was like, this is so cool to watch God moving in your lives, I think that's really
absolutely. Absolutely. He's always moving. in my investment and coaching business, it's continued to grow, and I'm so excited because I'm now seeing other people come in, because I can't do it all by myself. Just like we can't do it without him, we can't do the things we're supposed to do in isolation.
Yeah.
So he's all of a sudden bringing other people that want to be part of this journey. And I have an opportunity to become a better leader, to say, you have this gift. I'm going to invite you in. I'm going to give you what I have, and we're going to go forward together.
Right.
And so that's been really happening in my life, to just realize, remember what you asked for, and he starts to put things into place, and it's starting to come to fruition. And it's like, that's could be out of your comfort zone too, because you go, well, as long as this idea is just in my head, I can shrink back whenever I want to. And he said, I didn't ask you to. Right. I asked you to move forward. And to prove it, I've put other people, and they're all believers. They're all, most all, I think they're all believers. Now, one could come in that's not a believer, but that's okay.
You get the opportunity to share.
That's right.
Yeah. And I feel like I have a lot of friends, like, watching them grow in their faith has been so cool. Like, watching my friends grow and being able to share with my friends. And because, like, they all are different. We all have different stories. We all have different things that we are going through. And I think it's really cool to, like, come back and be like, okay, this is what, like, I think about this, and this is what you think about this. And just being able to talk, like, I had a really good conversation with the person we went on a trip with. And, like, I just, like, we sat there, like, one night, and she was like, so what do you believe about this? And I was like, I don't even know. Like, I believe this, and I kind of, like, think this. And she's like, yeah, and I think this, and I've read about this. And, like, it was just so cool, because it's hard sometimes if you don't talk about things. Like, I need people to talk about things. And watching, how, like, your friend's faith, like, I love watching their faith grow. Because, like, one of my friends just got back from a mission trip, and watching the girl that we just went on the trip with, it was so cool, because I've seen her, like, grow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God is moving. Like, God is moving so much, and having friendships, you can really see it move. And, like, the friend that just moved to Alabama, she and I would, like, I invited her to church one time, and it was just a Christmas party. Like, she's a Christian, but I was like, hey, do you want to come to church with me? And she was like, yeah. She's a really small church, like, home church. I have a really small home church. So I was, like, invited her to this other church, and we were like, let's go to do this youth group thing. And it was just a Christmas party. It was just fun that night. And she was like, I really like that. And she came back every week. Even the weeks that I wasn't there, she was still there. And I was like, this is how, like, you can grow your friends. Like growing, like, I invite my friends to church. Like, hey, do you want to go to church with me? Because even though they might say no, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll invite you another week. Like, I really enjoy spreading, like, the word. I think that's, like, something I really enjoy in that aspect, like bringing them to church or doing Bible study. Something like that is something that I enjoy for, like, my sharing my faith. But in yours, it could just be, like, talking to them or praying with them at a real estate, like, house offer thing. And I think that's just so cool.
Well, thank you. And, one thing about inviting people to church, what I thought was interesting is we don't want to be pushy to somebody, but I've heard people say, and this came to me a long time ago, the biggest fear I ever had is to get to heaven's door and turn around and see somebody I know, and they say, why didn't you tell me about him?
Yeah.
Why were you so worried to be to step over the line and share? You didn't have to push. You just had to say, do you know him? Let me, this is why I believe. And a lot of times people don't go to church because maybe they've been hurt or whatever. But all it takes is us inviting them. They can come or not come. I have a good friend that had not been in church, and I invited her to go with me. And she and her husband, he just got baptized and whatever. And they're now part of that. So you've got to learn that it's, again, if I invite you to something, doesn't mean I'm in charge of all the outcome. I just have to invite.
Planting the seed.
Planting the
God
seed.
will take it wherever he needs to take it. And we said, like, we had something called Judgment House the other day, and it was where we, it showed, like, the rooms of, like, it just, like, went to a story. So it had, like, a room that was heaven, it had a room that was, like, hell. And it was really scary because it went through, like, a storyline. And this girl died. And it was, like, this girl died, this boy died. And they were, like, the girl, they were both like in the judgment area. And I was like, wow, because one of the boy, he wasn't a believer in Christ, but they were going to tell him about God. They were, well, we're going to tell him about him eventually. And he had to go to hell because he didn't know Christ. And I was like, your friend, you can be like, well, I'll tell him about him tomorrow. I'll tell him about him tomorrow. You don't know how long either of you has to live. And so that's really something I was like, wow, my friend could go to hell because I didn't decide to share. Because I was like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Just because I put it off, now I have to live knowing I could have changed that outcome, and I could have helped change that outcome.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can never make them do anything.
Yeah.
You can tell people about God and like show them God and invite them to church and do all that. You might not be able to change them, but you can help change them or plant that seed. And there was something, I had a podcast about mission trips, and she was talking to me, and she was like, yeah, they would go to like the doors and talk to people about God. And I was like, what happens if that kid, like there was just a kid there and he was listening, and even the parents were like, no, we don't want to hear about God and all this stuff, but that kid heard the name God, heard the name Jesus. And then later in their life, like, who's Jesus? And I think that can just like grow the seed, so you don't know who you're impacting. And so I really have to like watch what I'm talking about, watch what I'm saying, because you don't know the eyes and ears that are around you listening or like hearing, watching, because you don't know. So make sure that like you're saying what God would want you to say. I have to like really remember that sometimes, because the world can make you like, well, it's fine to do this, it's fine to do that. Like, look in the Bible. Is it fine to say these things about people? Is it fine to do this stuff? I feel like I have to really think that, because I feel like as a teenager, everybody's like, I want to fit in. I don't want to fit in. We're called to be different. And I feel like that's kind of a cool thing, is I'm like, you don't have to be like perfect, everything. Like, I'm just like everybody else. I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be like Jesus. And that's something I have like some friends who have like younger siblings, and like when I'm talking to them, like you don't need to be like everybody else. You need to be like Jesus.
Right.
And so you don't have to be like that cool girl in school. Yes, you might make fun of everybody else. You don't have to make fun of everybody else. You can help tell the people like, it's okay, don't worry, it's all good. Like, you can help build up people, don't break down people. I think that's definitely something I'm stepping into, is like remembering to, like, if I could talk to my 2022 self, I'd like, stop breaking down people and start building people up. Because I think when you're insecure about yourself, or you don't like take care of yourself enough, you don't love yourself enough, and then you just like tear apart everybody else. So I like, nowadays I'm like, I love who I am, and I love my personality, and I love this, so I'm going to help other people love their personalities, and I'm going to let other people like love who they are, because we're all amazing individuals, and sometimes we don't see that. And so I feel like I've definitely grown from like 2022 self to 2024 self.
Isn't that awesome?
Like, we
continue to grow all through life. Yes,
and that's crazy, because I was thinking about the other day, and I was like, I'm going to be graduating in 4 years. Like, that scares me. I'm like, how did that go so fast?
Yeah.
And because like I moved in next year, I was like 6.
Were you?
I think I was 6.
Oh my.
Yeah. Like, it's like 8 years ago. That went fast. So like, how fast is the next 8 years gonna be? I'll be 22 in 8 years. I'm like, that's crazy to me. That's kind of exciting to think about. Do you have any like other things you want to share? So I kind of like rambled the whole time.
Well, just that I realized that the more authentic we can be is the real encouragement. The I don't have it all together. Again, going back to the most profound to me in faith and in my relationship with God was when I said He was already pursuing me. Right? I pursued you first. I chose you first. Really? Did you see what a mess I was? Right? But I chose you first. And so if you look at, helping people see that faith is, you just decided to, okay, I'll give you a shot, God. All right, I'll do that. And you didn't say, well, and I remember when, going through some struggles, well, I'll go to church when I get it all right, which is totally backwards, right? It's the wrong way. So, hey, you know what, God, I don't have this all figured out, but I'm going to sign up for this. It helps people to realize it's not about being perfect. Yeah. You just signed up for it. Now, you don't know what you signed up for.
Right.
right? You don't feel any different. You're still doing some of the crazy, wrong thoughts, things, actions, whatever, but you agreed to go on this journey. And I can look back at my life and how he has evolved me and changed me. And I remember a moment in my spirit of when he rescued me when I was lost. Lost, not before the faith, but just in my own, relationship with my husband. I wanted more. I wanted our family to be real. We had influence, but I wanted us to be real, whatever that meant, real. But when I signed up for the journey, it just meant now we're starting. Now that's the starting place. Yeah. And I think that I want to share with people when I tell them about why I believe or what, I just want to plant that seed. I just signed up for the journey. I don't know how this is all going to turn out. Yeah. And help them realize they don't have to wait till it's perfect. All the crazy stuff somebody has in their life, all the mistakes, that's just who made you who you are. Mm-hmm. Just as I might tell somebody like yourself who's 14 and I'm 65, there's a whole lot of life going to happen between then and then. And there's going to be, he's continuing to evolve you. And it's okay. It's okay if you have the days when you get frustrated at God, or you don't have it all together, or you try to go. I loved how you said, yep, I got this, God. Okay, I got it. And then he takes you to a place where he goes, oh, okay, we're not going to make any progress while you're sitting there, Karen. I'm going to take you to a place where you realize you don't have it. Mm-hmm. And that's out of that comfort zone. I'm going to take you to a place where it's bigger, or you just go, oh, all right, God, I give it back to you. And he goes, okay, now we can make some progress. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the faith that the Cup of Wisdom, why I started it, was I want to share that with people. He's got the plan. You've got a plan. Let's, collaborate. He's going to take you farther than you ever, and better than you can ever imagine. And it's because of your broken pieces or your failures that are going to encourage somebody. That's what's going to do it. And I think that so many people they want God, but they're so busy with the negative about, well, I was hurt in church, or I had this happen. And was just like, and I remember, I go to church, I enjoy church. I remember God saying, I put you out on the path. I think that's where you're meant to be, which is why I became a real estate. Imagine, that's not church, which church is amazing. He said, I put you on the path where the people are. Yeah. And that's what I want from you. And so he definitely puts me on that path.
Yeah, for sure. When you're talking about, we all make mistakes, and that's a human thing. We all make mistakes. We're not supposed to be perfect. But when I think about something sometimes, so don't let your past mistakes make you think, well, I cannot be something in the future. Like, don't look at your past mistakes too long that you don't see what God has for you in the future. And when I think about things that I've messed up on, all my failures, I am learning to grow from those. And I'm going to use those to share God's word. I'm not going to use those to say, well, I messed up here and here and here. I can't do this, God. I'm sorry. See, these are all the reasons I'm not good enough. It's like, who you are now is a totally different person than who I was then. I am a different person than who I used to be. And I'm like, so I can keep going forward. You don't have to have everything figured out. You're never going to have everything figured out. Mm-hmm. But you can keep trying to just follow God. And I think that's something that is really big. And I think people need to realize that more, is that it's not about being perfect and being everything's all good. You can have failures and you're going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's okay to make mistakes because you can grow from those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so whenever someone's like, well, I messed up here, I'm like, okay, and how are you going to grow from that? Or in swim, if I add time, I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. I messed up here. And okay, how are you going to grow from that, Rose? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to work on this. And that's the same with your relationship with Christ. It's like, okay, I messed up here. And so how am I going to grow back? How am I going to become better? Mm-hmm. Because like you said, you can't focus on perfection and being perfect all the time. You have to focus on getting better. Mm-hmm. And I think because if you're focused on the outcome, then you're going to miss the journey. And that's something I really realized lately, is I'm going to miss the journey if I keep worrying about, well, how is it going to end up? Because I don't know how it's going to end up, and I don't need to know how it's going to end up. I need to focus on every next step that I make. Because I heard something the other day, and it was like, what if the next step that you make can change everything? I was like, okay, well, let's make a good change, not a bad change. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. It's really sorry. I keep like rambling.
No. One of the things I've enjoyed, I remember, and I miss you in the neighborhood. I have to
Right.
say, is when you were doing the things with the kittens,
Mhm.
and to watch you have such dedication and love, and just take charge of things you want to do. Um, you don't realize the people that you influence by the things you're doing, even as a young child, as a young lady. And that's the thing we're all supposed to remember. Because like I said, I remember thinking, it's like, you know what? That is pretty cool. She has decided this, and she's drawn in other people to be part of it. And I think that's a confidence you demonstrated then, that influenced me, and to watch you in the neighborhood and influence other neighbors to participate. It was about the little kitties, but it was so much more. That was God working through that, and He uses scenarios like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Because I definitely learned that my language is love. Like my love language is giving and helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think about why do I do the podcast, it's to help other people grow closer to God. And why did I help the cats? Because I didn't like seeing something that was in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I gotta help them because they're in pain, and I don't ever want to see someone in pain. So I don't want to ever see someone I know that. Okay, it's gonna sound weird, but I don't want to ever know that they went to hell. So I'm gonna tell them about Jesus because I don't want to see them in pain. I don't want to know that they're in pain, so I'm gonna tell them about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna help the kittens because I didn't want to see them in pain.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to see them without a family. So I was like, I'm gonna help them. So that's my vision in life. I think is always just I gotta do a lot for myself, but focusing on other people. And I think sometimes that can be hard because you gotta focus on your walk with Christ. Sometimes I get so caught up in other people's walk with Christ. I'm like, God, I haven't even talked to you today. I'm like, okay, I gotta sit down and focus on my relationship with you, because if I don't better my relationship with you, then I can't share anything about you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something I notice sometimes when I'm not in the Word and I do a podcast. I'm like, I don't even know what to talk about, God. And He's like, I know. Why do you think? And I'm like, okay, get back in the Word. Get back in the Word. And it just helps me to share everything so much better. And so you got to focus on your relationship with Christ, because if you don't better your relationship with Christ, then you can't better anybody else's relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing.
Absolutely. I sit down in the morning in the sun porch out there, and I have this nice little place. I have my Bible and my journal, and I am a writer at heart too. I'm working on a couple of books. What I found is I remember my son, Jay, saying to me, I really love that you do that. It was just a passing comment. Mm-hmm. But as a parent, you are supposed to be walking out your faith, and your children see it and they know how to follow. And, when I first started doing that, it's like you take a little, snippet and you go, okay, all right, I got it. And I walk away and it'd be like, what was I studying? Mm-hmm. But then he always shows me throughout the day evidence of that. That's awesome. He says, don't, look for the wonder, look for the opportunities to see where I am playing that out. Yeah. And I just love that because, I'll have it laying there. In fact, this morning I had a 9:00 appointment, and I got mixed. I was focused on coming here, and I had this, I set this timer on my phone and kind of just laid it aside. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, wait, I missed that appointment. But they're all believers. And I said, you know what? Me and God were having a thing. Now I apologize, but now here I am. Mm-hmm. And even that was not an excuse, but it was an opportunity to say, who gets to have my first? Yep. He does. Because I can't do anything else if I don't take the words that He says. And I love those devotionals where they're written more in a language that we can understand, and how it applies, how the verse applies. Yes. And, it's funny because I always believe, I read a story. It was the Korean man, I think the book was, and it was about a guy that was a missionary and a preacher, and he was in his country, and they did not have Bible. Well, they had one Bible, but they had to hide it because you weren't allowed to have it. And they would have his image on in the train stations because they were being hunted for. And I remember that when I thought about that, it really made me realize is that we take for granted, people have Bibles on their bookshelves that haven't been touched in years, and Bibles. So, but what I realized when I saw that, I thought, first of all, they had to protect it because it was the only one they had to. But I thought, what if I didn't have that physical book anymore? So I better have it here because I might be that walking. And it was really powerful to think because it gave that so much more that, I would protect that over anything in my house.
Yeah.
So, I think that story really made me think about, what if I didn't? What if what if I didn't have one?
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more a treasure that we do have it. We have it, but people wouldn't maybe go into church, or people wouldn't read a physical Bible because they go, oh, yeah, I don't get it. We don't get it till you get it. But you take it with you.
Yeah.
And it looks like Rose, or it looks like Karen, or it looks like, your Michael or Kelly. It looks like people walking out, but they got that with them.
Yeah. And I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, what would you, if you could grab like 3 things from your home, like what are 3 things you couldn't live without? Or if there was a fire, because I think about this kind of things a lot. Like, what would I do if there was a fire? What were 3 things I would grab? And I was like, probably my dog. Like, make sure my family, my dog, my Bible. I'm good. I don't need my phone, or I don't need all my clothes. I need my Bible, and I need my dogs, and I need a family. And they're like, what's 3 things you couldn't live without? And I was like, my family, my Bible, and like my best friends. Because those are the things that my life like revolves around, is my family and my friends, because I think God gives us our family, and then he gives us our second family. He gives us like the family that we're born into, and he gives us the family that we kind of like put together. And so we're all totally different, but we all become a family. And then like my swim family, that's such a big family, I feel like, is my swim team, because we go through highs and lows together. We go through hard practices where I'm like, I cannot do this, and we go through moments where I've had like times where I'm just like crying, and they're like, it's fine. And I think that really just shows you who like your close people are, is who's going to help you through your challenges, and who's going to stick with you. Not be like, oh, she's crying, walk away. Be like, okay, hey, what's going on? Like, talking to you about that stuff. But no, I feel like my Bible is definitely something, because mine is, I make so many notes, and I highlight everything.
Oh, good.
Like, I highlight everything. Because when I highlight things, it helps me focus. Highlighting helps me focus. So I highlight whatever I read, and then I underline, or I make notes. Like some pieces will have like notes, and some things like God has forgiven our sins, or I underline, I highlight, like all this stuff. It helps me focus, and it helps me take things away. So it might look kind of crazy, but she has to highlight everything, but that helps me focus. And I think whatever helps you.
Yeah, who would want to have a Bible that they pick up and it has nothing written in it? I write, just, write things around the perimeter. I underline because I want it to be tattered and worn and used and loved.
Yeah, I think if somebody got my Bible, I want them to have a little bit of notes in it. Or like if somebody like got my Bible, they could. I think that's really cool. Is like, my friend talked to me the other day. She's like, I got to see my grandma's old Bible. Her great grandma passed away. She's like, I got to see my great grandma's old Bible. It was so cool to see like the notes and all that, because that's really true. Like, somebody else's faith can help influence yours. And like, okay, this is what they went through. This is what they put down. And it's really cool. Bibles are just so cool.
Yeah. Like, I said something about that, and again, part of my mission in my Cup of Wisdom was building a legacy. And if you think about that, you're building a legacy that will go on to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, all the way down the line. And not just your, biological, but your, the people in your life that you touch. And so that is part of what we all want to do, is we're building a legacy for the future, and we're taking that. I wasn't raised in church, and I I kind of did this, just not on my own, but you know what I mean? And one of the things I realized is he pursued me and I signed up. And so as you go through life and you may touch somebody's life that changes their life forever.
Yeah.
Forever. And so, the Bible that you have, or the faith that you have, I have in my bathroom, I don't know if you remember the show, the prayer, the war room. And I love that because you are praying, they don't have to ask you. You observe things in each other's lives and you're praying them through. And I put it out there. It's in my bathroom, but it has people that I care about. And I just feel like that's part of, when I realized my faith was not just for me.
Yeah.
I could be a good little girl, a good little Christian, go to church every day, read my Bible every day and whatever. It's not meant for just me. And especially as a mom and a wife and a professional and a woman, it's meant to share it. And so I love, I need a bigger, and some days I'll think, oh, I forgot to put so-and-so, I'm thinking about them, but it really does bring that we're praying each other through. The marriages, I have a strong desire for marriages because I know that our society wants to have a big $50,000 wedding. And then when you get past that, you go, okay, well, I don't like you today and whatever. It's like, remember, faith and Christianity and walk with God says you signed up to the commitment. The same thing is true in marriage. You signed up for the commitment. The happily ever after comes way down the line when you agree to be molded and polished and grown to this new level. And just like Christ and the marriage, that the church has that walk. It's like you signed up for the happily ever after. Let's work it out. Let's see it through.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I have that prayer wall, and I don't put it out in the main part of the house. Sometimes maybe I should, to realize like, we have a responsibility to pray for other people.
Yeah, I feel like I pray about a lot of people, because praying for other people, God already knows what they're going through. And sometimes I tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm praying for you. Because if I got a message that said, hey, I'm praying for you, like, how that would, like, change my perspective on my day. Like, if I was having a really bad day and all of a sudden I got a message that said, hey, I'm praying for you. And I do have friends who text me, like, hey, I'm praying for you. And it's like, I'm not alone in any battles I go through. Because I have my faith, and I have the people around me. And yes, they might not always be there for me, but I got God. And He will have my back through it all. I think that is so important to me. Because every time I have, like, a moment where I'm like, I'm alone, I'm so alone. No, I'm not. The enemy will make us feel like we're alone and like we can't.
He likes to isolate you. And especially in here. He works really well isolating in your head.
Yeah, and it's scary, because I've had a lot of times I'm like, I'm alone, I don't have anybody, and I'm like, I got God. I'm good. And I think that's what you gotta, like, turn to the Bible. I think sometimes people turn to, like, alcohol or drugs or those things because they're like, it numbs the pain. Well, you're just numbing more pain and more pain. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I was like, it's not going to help you. Like, it's just going to numb your pain and make you feel worse in the long run. But go to the Bible, and you're going to have joy. In fact, there's a Bible verse that talks about how the things you're going through now and the pain you're going through now, like, can't even amount to the joy that you're going to feel later. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm going to go through these struggles, and I'm going to smile my way through it, because I know that my heart is with God, and I know that no matter what I go through, I'm going to put my faith in God, and He's going to lead me through every bad thing I go through. That's really cool thought right there.
Yeah. It's a journey.
It is.
And other believers have to encourage each other and walk alongside. And I just always think about, just as we came today, it's like, meeting you when you were such a young girl and watching your faith grow and watching you grow. And then it's almost like we met up on the road, right? To just encourage each other and to walk together and pray together. And I think that's, people need to know it's just like you walked up beside somebody and said, I hear you. I know what you're going on. I know what you're going through. Not to go, oh, you should just, don't worry about it, whatever, but to say, I hear you and I see you,
Mhm.
because somebody is watching. Just like, go back to that wedding, I was so profoundly touched to realize it wasn't about us, but they had been watching us. All of those people watching us the whole time,
Mhm.
and praying for us, and maybe developing their faith, by watching. Well, that's a pretty awesome experience. And if we had not done the hard things, and God done the hard things in us, we wouldn't have been there. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, it was cool to like go to the wedding and like watch, and I was like, that's crazy that no matter like what you went through, you still ended up
mhm,
together, like happily ever after. It's such a cool
that's right.
moment for sure.
So,
That's all I really have.
well, thank you
Can
so
you?
much for
Yes, thank you
having
for being
me,
on
and
here.
wish you well continuing on your
Thank you.
podcast, and to be so courageous to get out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
and lead the way, because we're meant to lead the way. We're meant to lead His way.
Mhm.
And so I'm just so thankful that you had me.
Yes, thank you for being on here, and thank you all for watching and listening. And listen next time.